but it doesn't have to. Because affordable housing also means density. And density means more houses on less land, which leaves more land for agriculture. So there's ways we can work together to advocate with the city council here in Goldsboro, advocate with the county commissioners, advocate on the state level, federal level, different policies to encourage these things. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about how do we collaborate as a community? How does the chamber members collaborate together to advance these things that ultimately are only working to improve lives in Wayne County?
Welcome to For the Record, a Wayne County Chamber of Commerce podcast, where real conversations meet real impact. We dive into the stories, insights, and experiences that shape our world, bringing you expert voices, thought-provoking discussions, and a fresh perspective on the topics that matter most. For the Record is proudly sponsored by Atlantic Casualty Insurance Company, TA Loving Company, Goldsboro Builders Supply, PDM Professional Data Management, UNC Physicians Network, Alta Foods, and Butterball. We're grateful for their support in making these conversations possible. And for the record, we're glad you're here.
All right. For the record, we're with Matt Whittle. Matt, it's good seeing you.
Yes, sir. So happy to be here. Looking forward to this.
Oh, man. I remember meeting you not too long ago at a government affairs committee. I think, and actually I met you a little bit further, maybe a year or so ago, actually at a Habitat for Humanity event. And so I wanted to first off just say thank you for that.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
So for all of the folks out there, Matt is the director of the Habitat for Humanity for Goldsboro. But what you've done for this community and for the military is second to none. I want you to know that right off. We talked a little bit beforehand, but it's near and dear to the heart of military members to be able to do community service, and your ability to link us in and link the community in is certainly a blessing.
Yes, sir. Well, and we're so fortunate that we have such a good relationship with Seymour Johnson and with all the airmen, all the women there on base. We get so many volunteers every second Saturday. It's a standing day. We have at least one group coming out, and we try to make sure on second Fridays that we're really that second weekend every month we're really trying to honoring our active duty, our veterans, inviting them to come out on site to build with us, and it's such a blessing to have them. I tell folks, and a couple of years ago, I think when you came out, it was. We were after COVID, but I tell folks all the time when they talk about the impact of Seymour Johnson, Habitat would not have made it through COVID if we did not have two volunteers that came off base whenever they were off duty, whenever they had that free time, they were out there building with us. And if it wasn't for them, we would not have kept going through it during COVID.
Was Josh Midla one of those?
He was one of them, yeah, absolutely.
He just got promoted to Master Sergeant.
I heard.
Yeah, he was extreme. I was so excited. I sent him a note on Facebook and told him congratulations. Yeah. For some reason, his nickname was Monster. I feel like that was it. And he certainly didn't seem like a monster.
No, not at all.
No. He was
maybe it was that work ethic he had.
He did. I'll tell you what, he did. And he absolutely loved Habitat. So thank you for that. But hey, let's do this. Let's get a chance to know a little bit more about you. So if you could fill us in on who's Matt's family, all that stuff, where you're from. Love to hear it.
Absolutely. So, Matt Whittle, my wife's Rebecca. A lot of folks know her. She has worked at several jobs here in the community. She used to be with various staffing agencies, temporary staffing agencies, and she's put so many people in Wayne County to work. No, it's funny. We talk sometimes, and I'll reference somebody, and she's like, "Oh yeah, they're still in that job that I get that she helped them get, or so that company she helped them get into, 10 years ago." But my wife's Rebecca. She's now the HR director at Wayne Preparatory Academy, and so she does great stuff there. Two boys, Liam and Locke, 16 and 11. Both of them play soccer, and that's what we spend a lot of our time doing is watching soccer.
I got to ask the name Locke.
That's a funny story. So I played rugby in college. And the position I played, for anybody that knows rugby, was lock. It's in the pack, and we're come up with a name for lock, so we like lock. And we were calling Liam. His name's William, so we had to shorten it to Liam. So we called Lock Lachlan. So we sorted out the lock, partly to honor that little bit of heyday back in that youth when we could do things like that.
I love that. Todd is just Todd. Yeah. And so I always try to get a call sign. So I made up my own just to be cool. Lumberjack, that didn't work. Nitro. Because in the military, if you get a call sign, it's typically your operators or intel. And so all of a sudden somebody said, Todd, you're just Todd. And JT stuck. Okay. So that was kind of fun. But so I love that. And I love the story with Rebecca. So sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
No. So, we've been here in Wayne County. No, we're not Wayne County natives. Neither one of us are. My wife's originally from Aiken, South Carolina area. I'm from Luray, Virginia, up in the Shenandoah Valley. And after college, I moved to Tarboro to work at the newspaper there, the Daily Southerner. And she was working there. And so that's where we met. Then we moved here to Goldsboro about, I guess it's been 18 years ago, or almost 18 years ago, and it's become home. This is our home now, and this is where we've invested in. So that's in a nutshell, that's kind of who we are.
No, and I'll tell you, who you are is really servant. So it's awesome to hear about Rebecca and what she does, and she still sees folks who are really benefiting from her efforts. But you too. I love listening to, all right, so one, I have a stepson who's at Lynchburg, Virginia, going to Liberty. That's kind of where you grew up, and then went to University of Virginia, and then moved down this way to North Carolina. And you started with the Argus newspaper here. I'd love to hear some of your stories. Like, was that what you were looking to do when you were growing up? Were you like, I'm going to be the best journalist ever?
No. So, when I was growing up and through high school, I had delusions of grandeur. I thought I was going to do these huge, amazing things. And some of it way too embarrassing to even get in on here. But in the back of my mind, I'd always assumed that I would go to law school at some point. No, that was kind of that's the path I was going to take. Go to law school and then kind of go into something from there. Got to college. And trying to figure out where do you get involved? You go to school, you're trying to figure out what to get involved in, different clubs, different activities, whatever. And see, I love going to movies. Movies were, in high school, movies were, I was at least one movie every weekend, me and my buddies. We always went to movies. And so what can I do with that? So I'm looking around, and the newspaper, the Cavalier Daily, the newspaper there at UVA, they have an arts and entertainment department. And one of the things that you could do was write movie reviews. And they would reimburse you the cost of that ticket. So I said, well, shoot, that sounds like a good way to go to the movies I want to go see and not have to pay for them. So I did that. I started writing movie reviews.
So your own Siskel and Ebert type thing,
absolutely. Huh? And see, the bad thing is, though, I was never very critical. I think I wrote maybe 2 critical columns the entire time because again, I love watching movies. Right. So and we talked earlier, a favorite movie. I can't give you one. I just enjoy watching them. Yeah. So I did that, and I got home during the summer after my freshman year. And I said, well, man, nobody's going to pay me to watch movies this summer. What can I do? So I called my local paper. We had a little weekly back home. I said, look, y'all don't have a movie review column. You run the one coming out of the Associated Press or whatever it was. And I said, well, let me write one for you. Just pay me the cost of the ticket. So they did that. And so a couple years of doing this, reviewing CDs, interviewing artists, that sort of thing. I really enjoyed it. And so my junior year of college, after my junior year, I went to work for I was home that summer, and I got a job at the newspaper. They had just had one of their staff, one of their city editors, one of their reporters had just left, and they needed to fill that position covering local government and doing some feature writing. And so I said, let me give this a try. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Fell in love with journalism, with writing. So that's what I was going to do. And so, after college, I applied for newspaper jobs up and down the East Coast. The one in Tarboro was the first one that said yes. So I said, well, we're moving to Tarboro. So I moved to Tarboro. Worked there for about 18 months, 2 years. And sort of met Rebecca and decided, it's time to take the next step. So I took the next step and looking for a little bit bigger paper. And so I came to the News Argus and enjoyed the time here. Was working here with folks, and some of those folks are, at least one of them or two of them are, I think, still there. Yeah. A couple of them are all throughout the community. But had a great time working there. I really enjoyed it. I got promoted to an editor position. And but somewhere in there, somewhere working with all these at these newspapers, I was covering a lot of local government, and so that's kind of where I got more interested. I've always been interested in politics, but got more interested in local government and the impact that makes on the daily lives of folks. I know that's where the rubber hits the road, and decided I wanted to get more involved. I want to get on the other side of the table. Love telling stories. Love helping folks tell their stories, but wanted to get on the other side of the table and make a difference on that other side. And went back to school, got that master's in public administration. But then, rather than local government, obviously one thing led to another, and now here we are at Habitat for Humanity about 10 years later. So
it's kind of interesting. I just love how things unfold, and so as we get into that, because I really want to jump in to your Habitat for Humanity and really your love for that organization, but. What was it? Was there something as a kid, as you can look back on right now, that really catapulted you to this portion of your life? I mean, when you were growing up, were you surrounded by folks who also enjoyed serving others, your mom and father, anything like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I grew up in a great family, mom, dad, sister. And they're all, mom and dad, grew up in church, of course. And they're always serving in some capacity at church, whether it was teaching, whether it was trustees, anything like that. One of the first big community events, because Habitat's, we bring volunteers together to build, right? I don't remember there being a Habitat affiliate in our community growing up. But the one thing I did remember that was kind of a similar vein is we built one of those wooden playgrounds. Had all the volunteers from all the community come and build the wooden playground. And I remember being out there. I can't remember. I was in sixth grade, somewhere in that range. Too young to really help, but I was out there helping collect nails that had fallen, collecting all the screws for the volunteers and making sure that all they got picked up. It was a really cool atmosphere being out there with there were dozens of folks out there building this playground, and it's still, most of the playground is still there. There's still parts of it there. They've done a lot of renovations over the years. The cool part is my boys, when I go back to visit my family, they've had the chance to play on that playground before they sort of redid the whole thing. But that's the first thing I can think of where you saw the community coming together and working together, outside of church or outside of this and that. Thinking back to other things, in school and whatnot. There's one story that we had a chance to look some of these questions ahead of time, right? And one of the things that I was thinking about that stuck with me, and it is. When I was in second grade, and this doesn't necessarily speak to community involvement, engagement, but I think it speaks to serving others and empathy a little bit. When I was in second grade, I had a hard time saying my R's. I was in speech therapy and all those sorts of things for it. Same year I got glasses and everything. It was a terrible year for me. But I had a teacher I loved, Miss Miller. But one day in class, she called on me to read something on the board, and she kept trying to get me to say it, and I kept saying it, but she kept asking me, and this is my memory, and it may not have been as dramatic as I remember it, right? Sure. Things are always more dramatic in our memory, but the word was ring, and I kept saying wing, and I had this friend who you would say back in the day, he came from the other side of the tracks, I think would be how folks would have phrased it back then. And but for whatever reason, he and I were friends. And I remember him saying, Miss Miller, he's saying ring. Remember, he has trouble with his R's. And for whatever reason, that has always stuck with me. That opportunity for somebody they didn't have to, but to stand up for somebody, to speak up for somebody, that for whatever reason in that moment, maybe couldn't speak up for themselves, and it's just always stuck with me. And he and I, we stayed friends for a long time, not close friends. We sort of drifted apart. We had different circles. I was in different sports and he did different things. But the cool thing is every once in a while he's in town, and he'll see mom and dad out working in the yard or working in the garden or something, and he'll stop and say hi to them. And they always call me and let me know that he's still around, how he's doing, all those sorts of things. I know so those two things, from the community service aspect, you guys had the playground building, but really that giving a voice to somebody who is, for whatever reason, is struggling to be heard or struggling to be understood, that stuck with me.
Yeah, that sticks with me too. You know, when you start thinking of who Matt Whittle is, you know, that's advocation, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we'll talk a little bit more soon about the Government Affairs Committee that you lead here on the Chamber of Commerce. But, you know, that's why we look to be able to sit down with folks like you, because you are a game changer and you've continued to do that. And you're excited. It's even cool right now. You're firing me up because what Habitat does, what you do, what you allow, you enable essentially, right, is something that I love the way you defined it to me earlier. And I'll ask you to do that because some folks think of it one way, but you had a really great way of really giving a really good definition of what Habitat's role is.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, our mission statement, and folks can find our mission statement everywhere. It's our Habitat's mission is to share God's love by working with our neighbors to build homes, community, and hope. And when folks think about Habitat, a lot what they think of are the homes. You know, they see us out there building. They come out and volunteer with us. They're out doing that on a Saturday morning, framing up walls, putting siding on, whatever it is. They're building that home. We also do the home repairs. So, you know, the homes, the new homes, the home repairs, those sorts of things. That's folks consider that to be our mission. Affordable home ownership is what we do. But we like to tell folks that the homes, whether we're repairing a home, whether we're building a new home, that affordable home ownership, that it's just a tool. That is a tool that Habitat uses to build families. And so our mission is really to build families. And even more than that, it's not that we are building the families. It's not that our volunteers working with us are building the families. Is we're really empowering those families to build themselves. Habitat, we always tell folks, we don't give our homes away. Our families that work with us, they have to go through the application process. They have to qualify. They are buying their homes, but they're also having to build their homes. We are giving them the opportunity. And Habitat doesn't get, that's the other thing I'd say a lot. If folks watching this have heard me talk before, they've heard me say, Habitat doesn't give homes away, but we give opportunities. And so our mission, the way I see it, and the way we see it, the way our board sees it, is it goes beyond Habitat building homes, community, and hope. But Habitat is empowering families to build those homes, to build that hope for themselves, build that better future for themselves. We're just the conduit for them to do that. We provide the opportunity for them to do that.
Yeah, that's got to be extremely exciting.
It is. Yes, sir.
I think I told you when I went out there that one time where Josh Midla, Master Sergeant Select Josh Midla, had sent it out to all the folks on the base. We came out there, and I saw a bunch of retirees out there too. And then I saw a bunch of other folks out there just going in to help. And I know you get some of the same folks over and over again that are spending time out there. And I will tell you, just learning a skill like that is super exciting. And I noticed you got a tattoo. Looks like, yeah. So with that said, one of the things I'd love to hear a little bit more of is you mentioned about the families in the application. Is there a website that they could go on to that they could apply for that?
Absolutely, yeah. So habitatgoldsboro.org. That's pretty straightforward. Just habitatgoldsboro.org. And we serve Wayne and Lenoir counties.
Right.
So we take applications once a year in September for those families that we're going to work with over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. It's a pretty straightforward application process.
Yeah.
We're heading into that season, and we do homeownership workshops throughout the year for folks to help them be prepared. And we partner with the families, and that's really the other thing is once the families are qualified, once they're in our program, they're not just out there doing helping build the homes. They're not just out there volunteering. No, we used to call it sweat equity hours. And this is funny. Really, a couple of weeks ago, I made sort of the unilateral decision that we're not going to call them sweat equity hours anymore, because to me that kind of gave the impression that they're just out there. They're just out there working. They're sweating. They're working for Habitat, and that's not what they're doing.
Right.
They're working for themselves. What we're doing with them is we're partnering with them. And so we made the decision to call them partnership hours to better reflect what that relationship is and how once the families are with us and they're helping to build the house, they're doing these things, but they're also going through financial literacy classes. They're going through, we're sitting down with them one-on-one and working on budgeting with them, making sure that they're financially prepared. The numbers are there. The numbers say they are financially prepared for it. We want to make sure that they can actually work within those numbers, that they understand how all that works, and then we also talked to them about wills and estates, how to protect that asset. What does homeowners insurance mean? How many of us have homeowners policies that, if push came to shove, we wouldn't really understand what was covered in that until that disaster or that accident or whatever happened. So we want them to understand ahead of time, what does this really cover? What does this mean? And then home maintenance and repairs. How do they take care of that house? Now, some of our families don't have a history of home ownership, and maybe in their direct line. Their mom and dad may not have been homeowners. Their grandparents may not have been. So they've never necessarily. A lot of our families, not all of them, but a lot of our families may not have seen what it means to own that home and to have to do all these things yourself. So we tools for success. That's what we try to do. It goes back to helping families build themselves. And we're not just building a home. We're working to build those families and get them all involved in it.
You're doing more than that. I didn't know all of that, but it just makes sense, right? If we're looking to get these homes built for these folks and they're going to participate, you've got to also know how to manage the home, right?
Right.
And so, and that comes in, and from my perspective myself, I look in biblical principles, right? I want to make sure my house is in order. Mm-hmm. And so by able to do that, you're letting them know that, we're doing this house, but there's also upkeep. There's responsibilities with this house. There's a lot of things that come with owning a house. So I didn't know that. And I didn't know also, how many folks a year can apply, and then is there a long wait list?
So we don't run wait lists. Per se. So I'll give you a quick example there. We have each year, let's say we have roughly 400 people start applications. About 10% of those will 20% of those or so will actually turn in a full application. They'll go through the full process of turning in tax returns and pay stubs and all those sorts of things. Of those, you have another 10% that are actually qualified. So, but in a lot of ways, I think it's a God thing. If folks say that's a God thing, almost every year, when we take this large number of people who start their applications, those who actually turn in all the paperwork, and then those who are qualified, every year is almost exactly the number of folks that we have the capability of building for that year. So right now we're doing 6 homes a year. We're going to be increasing that. Our goal is to be increasing that over the coming years. We have some big projects coming up, or a big project coming up. It's a process. And there's some folks, we have at least a third of our current families. We've done over a little over 100 homes. About a third of those families, a little more than a third, had to apply multiple times before they were ready for home ownership. They got that no, you're not ready yet, and then we can work with them. We can give them some pointers, give them some guidance, some direction to help them be prepared the next year.
Man, that's good stuff. So that kind of leads me into thinking about, what are some of those challenges that you face? So going to work, well, one, you're busy. There's no doubt, right?
Most
Taking
days,
care of
absolutely.
Folks, you're super busy. But what are some of the biggest challenges that you have found that you've faced in this, and how have you handled those?
So any nonprofit's going to tell you their biggest challenge is always funding, right? So that's a boring one. There's always a need to raise more money. The chamber is no different.
Sure.
There's always the need for more funding. But I think my personal biggest challenge has been over the years understanding and accepting that not everybody is going to be as passionate or care as much about habitat as I do. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. There have been times, I'll admit there are times when I've taken it super personally,
sure,
that why don't you get it? This is so important. And it is. But there's also so many other causes out there. There's so many other great nonprofits. There's so many other great organizations doing wonderful work. And that extends in some ways that extends to our donors, that extends to our volunteers, that extends to the other folks in the community, also extends to our families, those folks who apply. You can't make, we occasionally you have a family that applies and even is qualified and accepted and starts, that decides it's not for them. You can't make them, I won't say care enough, but for lack of a better term, you can't make them care enough to go through the program. Similarly, I can't make somebody care enough to donate $100,000, some crazy number to Habitat. But what we can do is we can listen to them, and we can hear what they care about, and then we reflect and say, okay, they care about children, they care about education, and so maybe we tailor our message a little bit to explain. Habitat plays a direct role in a child's educational success. I've used the phrase before, you can't do homework without a home. You have to have that stable home, that stable foundation in order to succeed. So even though they may not care about Habitat as much as I do, but they care about those kids. So if we can tell them, if we can show them the impact that we have on kids, then maybe they'll come along with us on this journey. And so that's been my personal biggest challenge, is how to tell that story, how to tell our story to folks, to communicate them in the way that they care about, in the way that they understand, but also sometimes just accepting the fact that not everybody's going to be as passionate about it as me, and that's okay, and sometimes not letting my passion for it run ahead. And let my mouth run ahead of my brain, which happens occasionally.
For all of us. Well, what's great is that passion was obviously something that we all saw here because, one, we certainly appreciate the Habitat for being a member of the Chamber, but you're also a major committee member for us on the Government Affairs Committee, and that passion can be seen there too. So as we transition from the Habitat, I do want you to know, God bless you, the work that you're doing, your team's doing, because it's not one person alone. I know that.
Absolutely. We got a wonderful staff. Wonderful staff on construction and restore office. Could not do without them.
No, but it takes great leadership, and that's why we're sitting here talking, because we want folks to see. Just like I talked to earlier, I mean, the way that you're able to balance this along with Rebecca, Liam, and Locke work, but also the Government Affairs Committee that you're very passionate about too. So could you tell us a little bit what you do with that on the committee?
Absolutely. So the joined the Government Affairs Committee several years ago. I think the Chamber was just asking, who's interested in government affairs, who would be interested in serving on this committee. And so I raised my hand and said, sure, I'll be happy to. I had some background in advocacy with Habitat North Carolina. It's our state support organization, and one of the things that we do is talking with the General Assembly or legislators about the importance of affordable housing, about what Habitat does, what we need to continue that mission, especially relating to the funding, disaster relief funding, all those sorts of things. And really enjoyed that sort of work. So I thought it made a lot of sense for me to join the Chamber's Government Affairs Committee and do a similar advocacy role there. The Chamber has so many different facets. There's so many different types of businesses. You have healthcare, you have ag, you have education, all these early childhood, all these sorts of things, all these sorts of members, and so the Chamber is in a unique position, especially the Government Affairs Committee, to bring these concerns, to bring these needs together, and create an agenda every year that looks at and says, how do all these needs impact Wayne County? How does the need for early childhood education? How does the need for farmland preservation? How's the need for affordable housing? How's the need for community development, rail development, all these sorts of things, infrastructure? How does all this fit together to impact Wayne County? And so the Government Affairs Committee has the enjoyable task of getting input from the other committees that the Chamber has, of course, and figure out how do we put these together, and how do we keep these interests, these needs from clashing. And we've been fortunate. I don't think we've had an issue in the last several years I've been on the committee. This just starting now as I guess the chair for the committee. We've not really had to sit back and say, okay, we had these two factions of the chamber, and their needs are opposed to each other. We've not had to figure that out because so much works together. I use the example of farmland preservation and affordable housing. Two areas where folks may not think that they're in collaboration, that those are complementary needs. Because you think, well, you got to have land to build, and that's going to take away farmland, but it doesn't have to. Because affordable housing also means density, and density means more houses on less land, which leaves more land for agriculture. So there's ways we can work together to advocate with the city council here in Goldsboro, advocate with the county commissioners, advocate on the state level, federal level, different policies to encourage these things. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about how do we collaborate as a community? How does the chamber members collaborate together to advance these things that ultimately are only working to improve lives in Wayne County?
Yeah, I like the way you said that too, because when we think of the chamber, we think of improvement, we think of members, but we really are thinking about quality of life of this county, right? And it's not really just this county, right? The effects of things that are happening in other counties, whether it's Wilson, anywhere, really ends up affecting our overall quality of life. And I love your passion for it, so I do look forward to working with you on that, because it does. It makes a difference. And I also appreciate when we look at the chamber side of the house. And that's one of the things I would even love to hear you talk about more in the sense of, how has the chamber, when it comes to highlighting, or as we say in our missions, is to engage, equip, and elevate the voices of every member here in Wayne County. How has the chamber affected the Habitat for Humanity side of the house for y'all?
So I'll actually go back several, so we've been here 18 years. So I'll go back 18 years, well before I was with Habitat. The chamber, for my wife and I, really has played such an important role here in Wayne County. She was working, again, with staffing agencies, so they were naturally a member of the chamber. I was at the newspaper was a member of the chamber. And we'd go to the business after hours and these events together. And that's where we started meeting people. And so that's where we began making a lot of the connections that we still have today. And so fast forward now, 18 years, and Habitat. So when I walk into a room, I know a bunch of people, not just because I worked at the newspaper, because we went to those chamber events, because that chamber, the chamber served as that connector for folks, and it gives us the opportunity to. It gives back to collaboration, right? So it gives the opportunity to work together. We walk into the room. We know who folks are. We come to the events, and you can talk to business owners. You can talk to elected officials and others. You can hear their needs, hear what they're worried about. And again, from the Government Affairs Committee, again, you get to hear these things where these concerns are, and we look at it from the Habitat. I look at it from a Habitat lens a lot of times. It's, okay, well, that makes sense. How does Habitat fit into that? How can we partner with them? How can we walk alongside with them to address that issue while also addressing our priorities as well?
No, I love that. And so everything we've talked about here is always talking about collaboration. It's talking about you being involved. It's talked about optimism, hope, taking care of families, putting others first. And what I think, and I put all that together to kind of close out our time together, how would you write a movie review on yourself?
Oh, man.
As we talk about how much you love movies, you wrote it, you got paid for it, or you got free movies for it?
Yeah, free movies for it. I didn't really pay much.
But as we sit now, and you're a young dude, you're a young man, but what would the review be on your life right now?
Oh, man. That's a tough question.
I didn't ask you that one before, but it's kind of about legacy, right? It's impact. What review would you have right now, knowing that there's sequels coming up?
Right. Yeah, no. Hopefully there's a trilogy at least. No, I think right now, when the review, the legacy that we're leaving right now, I think two things that I would hope would be in there. First and foremost, I think would be, who's the family? What legacy we've left? How is that who is the family? The boys. Who are they? And I think my review, I think they write their own. I think they write my review themselves. If anybody has interacted with them, talk to them. I think hopefully they walk away knowing that those are two great kids, and Matt and Rebecca have done a pretty good job with them. I think that would be review number one. The second part to that review would be going back to that collaboration that he has worked to bring folks together in a way. I write this column for the Buzz.
I was wondering if you were still writing. So you're still writing. Okay.
Still dabbling a little bit of writing. So I write this column for the Buzz, and it's called Our Habitat. And so I got the idea years ago. I've been around for several years now. We look at Animal Kingdom, look at nature, and animals have their habitat. And that habitat is their nest if they're birds, but it's also when you branch out, when you're talking about an animal's habitat, you're talking about the whole area in which they live, or the whole area in which they travel, and habitat for humanity. These words are going over in my mind, and so I started writing this column and called it Our Habitat, and because I really believe that we have to realize that our habitat as people, as Matt, as Todd, our habitat is not just the home we go home to every night. It's not just the house that maybe we built or we bought or whatever. It's not just the block that we live on, the neighborhood that we're in. It's the whole community. It's all of Goldsboro. It's all of Wayne County. You can expand that out, but realizing that we're all connected in that. That we're all part of that together, and hopefully through what we've done with Habitat, through what we do by bringing volunteers on site, hopefully through what we've done with at church, what we do with all these organizations that we've been involved in over the years. I hope that's been a theme for it. I hope that would be in the review, that there's this running theme of remembering that we're all sort of in this together, like the High School Musical song, right? We're all in it together. We're all in this together.
You just went Zac Efron.
Right, exactly.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. I did the dance at one time. I knew a little bit of the dance. I think that's it. I think that's just, we're all in this together. And that we try to elevate that and make sure that people remember that. So going back to that first part of the review, and I think in both our boys, we see that. We see where they have that sort of attitude in them, and that's the walking review at the end of the day, right? What that's always your legacy is the children, if you're fortunate enough to have them, that's gonna be your legacy. What the mark that they leave. So.
Well, I'll tell you from our perspective, if we were writing a review on Matt Whittle, I promise you it's going to get the 2 thumbs up or 4 stars, 10 out of 10 on Rotten Tomatoes. No, it is. It's something that's just wonderful for us to get an opportunity to listen to you. I told you before we talked in here, you are a game changer, and Wayne County is blessed to have you and Rebecca and Liam Locke here. So thanks so much for the time today.
Always a pleasure. So glad to do this. This is a lot of fun.
Thanks, brother.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.